I now call on Co-Chairman Sablan for his questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And good morning again, Ambassador Yun. One issue that Congress will have to deal with as we work towards passage of the both agreements will be the provision for mandatory funding for payments under the compacts. Can you please tell us why it is important to the freely associated states that compact funding be mandatory?
We believe it is critically important that funding be mandatory. I think you yourself alluded, several others, to the 8-year experience in which Palau did not have the legislation authorized for the whole funding, and it made their planning very difficult, and it made their budgets very difficult. So for the planning purpose, economic welfare of freely associated states, it was in fact one of their first requests when I came on board last year. And so I think it is critically important. Second, these are long-term commitments of the United States. We're not there 1 year, we think about it again the next year. This is a long-term commitment. Compacts are long-term commitments. We first entered into them in 1986. They define our relations with compact states. It is not typical foreign assistance. We get plenty out of it. You noted yourself the strategic rights, and these have become much more urgent. Through compacts, we control essentially the northern half of the Pacific between Hawaii and Philippines. This includes what I would call the first island chain of China. And so these have become critically important. Without the long-term commitment, I think our credibility will suffer enormous damage. So,
thank you. So, should we be concerned that the federal programs and services amendments are still being finalized, Ambassador?
I don't think we should be concerned at all. As you know, the federal services and programs are done on the basis of notification. That is, we notify you, and of course, you have the right to amend those parts. So in that sense, we do have a little bit of time to do this, and I don't see any interruptions out there, provided the compact legislation package, as it is, passes before the end of the current fiscal year. That, to me, is the most important thing. And with that package, our federal services and programs will follow. Thank you.
And, you know, our major strategic competitor in the Pacific, of course, has been increasingly active on the ground in the freely associated states and throughout the Pacific, using tactics to undermine, subvert, and intimidate local leaders. Are you aware of any attempts by any government or persons or entities affiliated with the People's Republic of China government to derail the negotiations in any way?
I think we see the presence and influence of China on a daily basis. About 3 months ago, some of you will have seen a letter, 11-page letter outlined by President David Panuelo of FSM, detailing the corruption that is practiced by China, as well as other coercive tactics. We see this just below where we are from the compact states. We've seen it in Solomons, we've seen it in Fiji, we've seen it in many parts. So to take somehow our friendship of these compact states for granted will be a real mistake. And we've seen it in Marshall Islands, where Chinese have attempted to buy essentially Rongelap, you know? I mean, this is hard to imagine, but we're seeing it on a daily basis, and I do think our own credibility is very much at stake here, so.
Yeah, and it'd be a shame, a huge mistake if, more than a shame, it'd be a huge mistake if a foreign government were to set itself up right within the quadrillion atoll or right next door to it. I have no further time, so Madam Chair, you back. Thank you.
I now recognize Co-Chairman Sablan for 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, welcome. I'm really happy to see that, there was agreement. And then, of course, now we have the RMI's issues. Mr. President, you bring up the State Department reestablishing the Office of Freely Associated States. Can you, just a little bit more for the record, once again, and I apologize, it seems duplicitous here, but explain why you think this is important and how such an office should help Palau and the other compact states.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, we have seen that with the lack of the office and the lack of the understanding within the State Department of the uniqueness of our relationship, there's an erosion of that relationship. So it's important that, first of all, and I've been in meetings with members from the State Department where they classify Palau as just like Tonga or any other Pacific island. And in those cases, I think it's very clear that we are not. You have strategic denial rights, you have those exclusive rights that don't exist in any other nation. And because of that, it's important that the State Department involves Interior and Defense in that agency so that they can have the full picture of the strategic relationship that we have, and they can be more focused on this relationship and don't let the momentum that we've built be eroded. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Falcam, welcome. You seem quite pleased, of course, because that's the Micronesian way, right? On the results of the negotiated compact, and also those are gentlemen's agreement, besides signing the gentleman agreement involved here. So could you describe how the current agreement you just signed is an improvement for the Federated States of Micronesia over the first two compacts, or could you say not, or yes, or?
Thank you very much, Congressman. And yes, this current proposed funding level that we are very happy to have come to an agreement with Ambassador Yoon and our counterpart team represents a needs-based economic assistance package for the FSM, one that we negotiated with the United States government in good faith, and we are happy with the results, and we are encouraged by the package that sits before the Congress now, particularly since it also contains language on veterans benefits, and it also contains the language on CFA. So yes, thank you.
We just need to get those also, this additional federal services agreement and programs enacted. Mr. Speaker, can you, sir, and I'm sorry, this is not your job, really, but what do you see, forward for members of Congress who are very supportive, sir, of your concern, but do not see a way out, way for getting, let me rephrase my question. Let me ask this way. Besides additional compensation for the nuclear legacy of the United States in the Republic of the Marshall Islands, is the Marshall Islands government satisfied with the other sections of the compact agreement? I think you've said this earlier, but I just want to make sure yes, sir.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Yes, in the written statement and also the brief verbal statement that I made, the MOU, it's a good document, and we can make it better. The compensation issue, there's other ways to address it, as I also made it in my verbal statement and also in the written statement. Change circumstance is a way to address it. It's called for under the treaty. So I think this is a way forward, and we sent a letter to Ambassador Yoon trying to see if we can tweak some of that, incorporating it to conclude a compact while we're continuing to negotiate the change circumstance petition with the Congress as called for.
Yeah, thank you very much. My time is up, but really all of you, thank you for today's hearing. It's really informative. I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair. You back.
And to your question as to the other provision of the compact, we thank you for your assistance.